So, John, I want to get into the heat maps a little bit more.
Okay, great.
This obviously is a podcast. We can't really show visuals,
Mm.
even though we are also going to be publishing this on YouTube. We don't really stick to visuals. So describe to us what a heat map is and what it looks like. And most important, how would you use it in your case to take some actions?
Great. So a heat map is named because it shows areas that are hot and cold on a page. Okay, so that's the first thing you should know. A page is going to come out looking like it's going to have a scale of colors from no color all the way up through deep red. Deep red is where there's more attention and people are spending more time looking. Then it cools off from there, right? So hot red, most attention, down to white, which in clear, which is no color and no attention. Nobody looked at it at all. And there's varying levels. It goes, of course, red, yellow, green, blue, right? And blue to clear means nobody looked there or gave it very quick attention. So what this is able to tell you, if you can imagine looking at a web page and seeing these spots and the gradients all over the page, it's going to tell you what are the most important points of this page that people are paying attention to. Now, maybe you want them paying attention to that area, or maybe you don't, right? For instance, I said this earlier, but maybe somebody's looking at the face of a person holding your product, but they're not looking at the product. And this is a common mistake we see quite a bit, where brands think they want to incorporate people into their photos because it makes it seem more relatable. The challenge with that is that as humans, we're drawn to other humans and especially faces. So when you look at heat maps, it's very, very common to see eyes drawn to the picture of the person and not the product. And maybe if you set it up correctly, you can get people to look at the product, even though it's near or, with a person. But this is why you see so many apparels with just a shot from the neck to the waist, if they're wearing a jacket, right? And it doesn't show the person's face, because that has been tested to show people will look more at the face than they will and develop opinions about that person based on their face and not the opinions of the product, which is really what you want them to focus on.
Yeah. So this is an interesting concept. So I had several guests and we follow this all the time. You're right. You want to put people in the pictures. And what you want to do is you want to show people in the pictures using the product. And that's because the psychology of the shopper is they don't want to look at just pictures of a product. They want to see themselves using the product in the picture, or they want to advocate for that product in the picture. So it is quite possible that shoppers may not really pay that much attention to the product itself, but to what else is in the picture. It may also be an activity, like, for example, the product may be for gardening, and then they may see somebody doing gardening, and then they are more interested in the act of gardening rather than the product. So that association with the product comes, it's implied already. So that then leads to making a decision. So in your experience, not paying attention to the product rather than the faces, is that a bad thing or a good thing or a neutral? Where does that land?
Well, I think that the challenge here is you want people paying attention to the product, right? You want them buying the product. And you're right, you do want people involved. But what you don't want to do is you want to have it in an anonymous fashion. And as soon as you put a face in the picture, you have lost that for the most part, because you're seeing that person in using the product in the image, not yourself. And again, this is why you will see photos cropped quite often where a person is in the background where you can't really make out a lot of the details, or you'll see somebody from behind, right, where they're walking away from you. If especially this is very common in like backpacks or outdoor or footwear, where you see only the idea, suggestion of a person. You don't see the actual person's face, etc. And we have tested this across apparel quite a bit, where if you include a face, it can make your product seem more relatable, but people focus much more on whether or not they like the person than whether or not they like the product, right? So they look at somebody and say, just based on looks, do I think I could be friends with them? And if they have a positive association, then they'll probably like your product a little more. But if they don't, then they're probably not going to like your product as much. And so the challenge becomes you're relying on a model to sell your product as opposed to the merits of the features and benefits of the product itself.
Yeah, this almost reminds me of the commercial, Priceline commercial with Captain Kirk. And so, it's, I mean, there is a reason why brands pick these spokespeople, right? Because they are likable people and they want to sell.